Have you ever looked at your investment portfolio and thought, am I missing something? What if your entire investment strategy, the one you've been building all these years, is missing the very one thing that creates real wealth? A few weeks ago, I had a meeting with George, a long-time client and friend who lives in Gauteng. Now, George has a fascinating story, a real rags to riches journey. He started out as a gardener, working for a family in Pretoria. Over time, he became close friends with the family's son, who eventually helped him draft his first business plan. At just 19, with no capital and only raw ambition, George launched his first venture. Fast forward nearly 30 years, and today George runs multiple successful businesses and has built an impressive investment portfolio. I've actually scheduled an interview with George for one of our upcoming videos. He's agreed to share his story, and trust me, you don't want to miss this one. But during our meeting, George said something that really struck a chord with me. Hardy, I know I've done okay, but I can't shake the feeling that I should be doing more with my investments. I understand the basics like investing in the JSE, bonds and cash, but I keep reading that the really wealthy are putting their money into other investments, such as private equity, hedge funds, commodities and real estate funds. Things that sound way more advanced than the average unit trust. I'm starting to wonder, am I missing something? That question, am I missing something, is the one that many smart, successful people ask when they start comparing their portfolio with how the really wealthy invest. In this video, I'm going to cover what the average South African investor's portfolio looks like, how the top 1% families with more than 50 million rand in investable assets actually invest, why they make those choices, and most importantly, should you copy them? So in today's video, let's unpack what South Africa's wealthiest retirees are really doing with their money, and more importantly, whether it makes sense for you to follow their lead. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Family Wealth channel. I'm Hardy Swart, a certified financial planning professional and a director at Family Wealth Custodians. Before we dive into today's video, I want to ask you something. We have a dream to help over 1 million South Africans improve their financial futures through educational content like this, and you can help make this happen. Here's how. Subscribe to the Family Wealth YouTube channel, click the notification bell so you never miss a video, and share this video with friends and family who might need it. Quick disclaimer, this video is for educational purposes only. Make sure you speak to a certified financial planner before making any big financial decisions. If you've been investing through a bank, a broker, or your company retirement fund, chances are your portfolio includes a retirement annuity or pension fund, some discretionary unit trust funds, a property, usually your primary residence, and maybe a few ETFs if you're a bit more hands-on. Furthermore, for the average investor, their portfolio would consist of the basic building blocks, which are stocks, bonds, and cash. According to a 2023 ASISA report, the vast majority of investments are concentrated in just 5 asset managers in South Africa, and over 80% of retail flows goes into multi-asset or equity-based funds, with the largest portion of assets sitting in balanced type portfolios. Thus, the average investor's portfolio sits at approximately 60% in public stocks, 30% in bonds, and 10% in cash. Although this varies depending on the average investor's age, as equity exposure often decreases as people get older. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just shows you how most people approach investing, simply and safely. But now the question is, what does wealthy South Africans do differently? The ultra-wealthy, families who've sold a business, inherited intergenerational wealth, or built property empires, have very different asset mixes. According to the UBS Global Family Office report conducted in 2023, less than 30% of their portfolio is in equities, 10 to 15% of their portfolios is sitting in bonds, and about 8 to 10% of their portfolios is sitting in cash. So basically, they have about half of their money invested in traditional asset classes and over 45% invested in alternative assets. If we break this down, we can see that they have about 19% of their portfolios invested in private equity, 13% invested in real estate, 7% invested in hedge funds, 2% in private credit and mezzanine finance, 2% in gold and precious metals, 1% in commodities, and 2% in art and antiques. I would love to find out more about how you invest. So let me know in the comments. Are you more stocks and bonds, or are you actually exploring alternative investment classes? Let's unpack why they do this. Well, first of all, these are some of the wealthiest people in the country, and they have access to the best resources. So, what do they know that other people don't? You've probably heard the phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But here's the problem. If your eggs are in the JSE top 40 companies, you're not really diversified. Investing isn't just about chasing the highest returns. It's about finding the right balance between risk and reward, tailored to your comfort level. While shares generally offer better long-term growth than bonds, they can also be very unpredictable. Just think about what happened in the 2008 financial crisis, 2015, and again in 2020 with the COVID pandemic, when markets dropped more than 30% in months. That level of volatility isn't for everyone. If you prefer a steadier ride, you can mix different asset types like equities and bonds to build a better portfolio that better matches your risk tolerance. Here's where it gets interesting. Even though the overall return is just the average of the two, combining assets that don't move in sync can actually reduce the overall ups and downs in your portfolio. Modern portfolio theory, developed by Harry Markovich and still foundational in investment strategy, proves that adding two low correlation assets, meaning assets that behave differently during different market cycles, can increase your return without increasing your risk. But theories don't always hold in the real world. So the big question is, do these alternative assets deliver on their promise? And should they be part of your investment strategy? Let's be honest, you can't walk into a bank branch and ask for exposure to private equity or hedge funds. But when you have over 50 million rand in investable assets, doors open. Suddenly you're invited to direct opportunities in tech startups, renewable energy funds, or private lending platforms that yield 12 to 15% returns per year, often tax efficiently planned through offshore structures. This isn't about being clever, it's about having access. The really wealthy often structure their investments via trusts, offshore companies, endowments, or private investment vehicles. Why? Because control equals flexibility, and flexibility is the foundation of long-term wealth. These structures allow for better estate planning, reduced executors' fees, and in some cases, no estate duty at all. According to a 2023 SARS report, South Africa collected 2.7 billion rand in estate duty the previous year. But guess who's not paying? Families who have structured their wealth properly. Let's now dig into the core components of a high net worth portfolio and whether they should feature in yours. Private equity involves investing in companies that aren't listed on the stock exchange. This includes everything from startups, venture capital, to more established businesses undergoing buyout or expansion phases. In South Africa, this industry is still developing, and according to the South African Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, SAFCA, their 230 member firms manage over 237 billion rands in assets across the region. So, what kind of returns can investors expect? Top-tier private equity funds in South Africa have delivered impressive long-term performance, between 16 to 22% per year, even more, over the past decade. But here's the catch. The gap between the winners and the losers is huge. While some funds outperform the market, others have delivered returns worse than cash. That's the risk. Without access to the best managers, you could be taking equity-like risk for bond-like returns. Unlike listed shares, there's no private equity index that you can invest in. You either invest directly into companies or go through actively managed funds. These funds typically fall into two groups: venture capital funds that invest into startups and early-stage businesses, and buyout funds who invest into more mature and often profitable companies. Part of the appeal is that private equity investments aren't marked to market daily, which can make them seem more stable than they really are. But don't be fooled. Most small businesses fail. Venture capital managers expect that 60% of their investments to fail completely, another 30% to just survive to break even, and only 10% to produce the kind of returns that justify the risk. So, why do wealthy investors embrace this space? It's simple. Many of them built their wealth by taking risks in businesses themselves. They're not only comfortable with entrepreneurial risk, they have the experience, networks, and capital to manage it. More importantly, they often don't need the money that they invest in these deals. If just half their portfolio can comfortably fund their lifestyle, they can afford to take bold bets with the rest. This is exactly why blindly following what wealthy investors are doing can be so dangerous. Their circumstances, risk tolerance, and goals are often completely different to yours. Since Regulation 28 was amended to allow hedge fund exposure within retirement portfolios, many investors have started looking at them as a smart diversification strategy. But be cautious. Most hedge funds charge 2% per year plus 20% of profits, and many underperform simple index trackers. According to a Morningstar South Africa report, only 28% of local hedge funds beat the All-Share index over the past 5 years after fees. This isn't to say that hedge funds are all bad. They can play a role, but only when used with a clear strategy and discipline. These are often high fees, very complex products that require careful examination. For most South Africans, the family home isn't just where they live, it's where most of their wealth sits. In fact, the average person in South Africa has about between 70 and 90% of their net worth tied up in their primary residence. But here's the problem. Your home isn't really an investment, at least not in the way that a business or a diversified portfolio is. It doesn't generate income, it's expensive to maintain, and its value is concentrated in a single location, often with a lot of debt attached to it. That's a risky bet. Why don't we see it that way? Because your home's value doesn't flash red or green every day, like a share price. But that doesn't mean there isn't risk attached to it. More importantly, locking up so much capital in one illiquid asset means that money isn't working for you elsewhere. That's why one of the first things that wealthy families do is diversify away from their homes. They still have property exposure, but it looks very different. It's professional managed commercial and real estate, locally and globally listed real estate investment trusts, and targeted exposure to logistics and industrial property sites. These types of investments offer scale, liquidity, and diversification without the hassle of having to manage tenants or fixing a burst geyser. Plus, they often sit alongside a broader portfolio of equities and bonds, which gives them the flexibility to take a long-term view. In short, the wealthy treat their homes as a lifestyle asset, not a wealth builder. Contrary to popular belief, the wealthy don't hold mountains of Krugerrands in vaults. Gold may serve a purpose. It can hedge against currency risk and geopolitical instability, but it doesn't generate income, and its price can swing wildly. That's why wealthier investors tend to prefer productive assets, dividend-paying shares, income-generating property, and ownership in real businesses that grow over time. As Warren Buffett famously said, the magical metal was no match for the American metal. Gold gets dug out of the ground in Africa or someplace. Then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again, and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head. In short, gold may glitter, but it's productivity that builds wealth. So, should you copy them? Not necessarily. Here's why. First of all, different goals. You might be saving for retirement in 15 years. They're preserving intergenerational wealth. Different time horizon. They can afford to tie up capital for 10 years. Can you? Thirdly, they've got a different capacity for loss. If they lose 5 million rand, it stings. If you lose 500,000 rand, it could derail your plan. Fourth, different tax positions. They can use costly structures to legally reduce capital gains tax and estate duty. You might not yet have that scale. Blindly copying the rich is like using someone else's prescription glasses. It distorts rather than sharpens your vision. The most overlooked difference between average investors and the wealthy is behavior. The wealthy don't panic sell. They don't constantly switch strategies. They have advisors, investment committees, and long-term plans. A 2021 Dalbar study showed that the average investor underperformed the S&P 500 by 4.25% annually, not because of fees or products, but because of emotions. Sometimes the most valuable asset is a calm advisor who can give you perspective. Here's the bottom line. You don't need 14 complex structures, 6 hedge funds, and offshore trusts to be wealthy. But you do need a clear plan, tax efficiency, the right platforms, and professional support. Start simple, grow smart, layer complexity when it adds value, and remember, building wealth isn't about looking smart, it's about staying invested, staying calm, and staying aligned to your goals. If this video gave you clarity, please like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to take their investments seriously. And if you're at a stage where you want to review your plan, book a strategy session with us. We work with individuals and families across South Africa, and we're passionate about helping build lasting wealth. Until next time, be intentional, be informed, and take control of your financial future.